President, now charged with his second set of federal crimes. He'll face a judge tomorrow as part of the special counsel's investigation into a plot to illegally overturn the 2020 election to try to keep Mr. Trump in power.
Trump is absolutely panicking right now because we need to talk about December 1st, 2025. That was the day when Donald Trump's entire legal strategy publicly collapsed in a federal courtroom. And I'm not exaggerating when I say collapsed. I mean completely fell apart, shattered, exposed as fraudulent and unconstitutional in front of dozens of witnesses, reporters, and cameras. And the footage of this courtroom disaster went viral within hours because what happened was genuinely shocking. And here's what makes this absolutely devastating. Trump's lawyers were in federal court defending what everyone was calling Trump's revenge prosecutions. These were criminal cases that Trump had ordered the Justice Department to bring against his political enemies, people who had opposed him, people who had testified against him, people who had criticized him publicly. Trump wanted them prosecuted, and Trump's Attorney General and Justice Department officials were trying to make it happen. But they needed court approval for certain investigative steps, grand jury subpoenas, search warrants, things that require a judge to sign off. And on December 1st, they went before a federal judge to get those approvals, and the judge absolutely destroyed them. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Patrick Smith's show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe, because you might think you are but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. Alright, let's get into what's actually happening. Systematically, methodically, point by point, the judge went through every argument Trump's lawyers made and showed why it was legally baseless, why it violated the Constitution, why it represented an abuse of prosecutorial power. And Trump's lawyers had no response. They literally stood there stammering and stumbling over their words, unable to defend their positions, unable to cite legal authority supporting their arguments. Because there wasn't any legal authority, they were just making things up, following Trump's orders to prosecute his enemies regardless of whether there was actual evidence of crimes. And the judge called them out on it in open court, on the record, and it was devastating. Now let me walk you through what actually happened in that December 1st courtroom. The case involved several former Justice Department officials who had resigned during Trump's first term, people who had refused to go along with Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election, people who had testified to Congress about Trump's pressure campaigns, and after Trump returned to power, he wanted revenge. He ordered his new Attorney General to investigate these officials for what Trump claimed was misconduct. Trump said they had leaked classified information, that they had lied to Congress, that they had obstructed justice, but there was no actual evidence of any of this. Trump just wanted them prosecuted because they had opposed him. Share this video with everyone you know because Trump's Justice Department opened investigations. They started issuing grand jury subpoenas, demanding documents and testimony. And some of the targets of these investigations filed motions asking a federal judge to quash the subpoenas, to declare them invalid. And the judge held a hearing on December 1st to consider those motions. And during that hearing, the judge asked Trump's Justice Department lawyers to explain the legal basis for their investigations, to show what crimes they were investigating, what evidence they had, and Trump's lawyers couldn't do it. They gave vague answers. They talked about national security concerns without specifics. They claimed the evidence was classified and couldn't be discussed in open court, and the judge wasn't having it. The judge said that in order to issue subpoenas, the government has to show probable cause that crimes were committed. You can't just investigate people because the president doesn't like them. And the judge demanded that Trump's lawyers provide some factual basis for believing crimes occurred. And the lawyers tried to deflect. They said they couldn't reveal their evidence because the investigation was ongoing, but the judge cut them off. The judge said, that's not how it works. If you want court approval for investigative steps, you have to show the court why those steps are justified. You don't get to conduct secret investigations based on nothing but political animus. Think about what that means. And then the judge started going through the specific allegations Trump's team had made. The claims about leaking classified information, the claims about perjury, the claims about obstruction. And for each allegation, the judge asked Trump's lawyers to cite the evidence supporting it, and they couldn't. They literally had nothing. One of Trump's lawyers tried to argue that the target's refusal to cooperate with the investigation was itself evidence of guilt. And the judge was incredulous. The judge said that everyone has a Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate themselves. Exercising that right cannot be used as evidence of guilt. That's basic constitutional law. And the fact that Trump's lawyers were making that argument showed how far outside legal norms they were operating. Make sure you're subscribed to Patrick Smith Show because the judge addressed the elephant in the room. The judge said it was obvious to everyone in the courtroom that these investigations were politically motivated, that Trump was using the Justice Department to punish his political enemies. And the judge said that's unconstitutional. The Justice Department is supposed to be independent. Prosecutors are supposed to make charging decisions based on evidence and law, not based on the president's personal vendettas. And the judge quoted from Supreme Court precedents establishing that principle, that prosecutorial discretion cannot be exercised in a discriminatory or vindictive manner. And the judge said that's exactly what was happening here. These investigations were vindictive, they were discriminatory, they were designed to punish people for exercising their First Amendment rights to criticize the president, and therefore the subpoenas were invalid and would be quashed. The judge ordered the investigation shut down, ordered all documents returned, ordered the grand juries dismissed, and the judge warned Trump's lawyers that if they attempted to revive these investigations, the court would consider sanctions, including referring the lawyers themselves for disciplinary proceedings. That's a federal judge threatening to have Trump's Justice Department lawyers disbarred for bringing frivolous, vindictive prosecutions. That's how egregious their conduct was. And the reaction in the courtroom was stunning. Multiple reporters who were present described a moment of stunned silence after the judge finished. Trump's lawyers just stood there. They didn't immediately respond. They didn't object. They didn't ask for time to brief issues. They just stood there like they'd been punched in the face because they knew the judge was right. They knew they had no legal basis for what they were doing. They were just following Trump's orders, hoping they could get away with it. And now a federal judge had publicly called them out, had exposed them as participating in an abuse of power. Share this with everyone because, and there was video of the whole thing. Courtroom cameras captured Trump's lawyers stumbling over their words, failing to answer basic questions, looking incompetent and corrupt. And that video went viral. Within hours, it was all over social media. News shows were playing clips. Legal analysts were breaking down how badly Trump's lawyers had been destroyed, and phrases like total collapse and bombshell ruling were trending. This was a public humiliation for Trump's legal team, and by extension, for Trump himself, because everyone understood these prosecutions were Trump's idea, his obsession with revenge, his abuse of the Justice Department, and now a court had stopped him, had declared his actions unconstitutional, and had publicly exposed the legal bankruptcy of his strategy. And Trump's reaction was exactly what you'd expect. Pure rage. Trump immediately went on Truth Social and attacked the judge, called the ruling rigged, claimed the judge was biased and corrupt, demanded that the judge be impeached, and Trump attacked his own lawyers. He posted that they had failed him, that they weren't tough enough, that they should have fought harder, which is insane because the problem wasn't that Trump's lawyers didn't fight hard enough. The problem was that Trump's prosecutions were unconstitutional. No amount of aggressive lawyering could fix that. But Trump couldn't accept that. He couldn't admit that he was wrong, that his revenge prosecutions were illegal. So he blamed the judge, blamed his lawyers, blamed everyone except himself. But here's the thing, that response just made things worse, because it showed Trump was unwilling to accept judicial rulings, unwilling to respect the independence of courts, willing to attack any judge who ruled against him. And that's authoritarian behavior. That's what dictators do when courts try to constrain their power, and it confirmed everything critics had been saying about Trump, that he was a threat to the rule of law, that he didn't respect judicial independence, that he would destroy democratic institutions rather than accept limits on his power. Now let's dig into what the judge actually said in that December 1st ruling because the legal reasoning is absolutely crucial. The judge started by addressing the constitutional role of prosecutors. The judge explained that prosecutorial power is one of the most serious powers the government has, the power to charge someone with a crime, to subject them to investigation, to potentially take their freedom. And because that power is so serious, it has to be exercised responsibly. Prosecutors can't just investigate anyone they want for any reason. There has to be a legitimate law enforcement purpose. There has to be evidence suggesting a crime was committed. And the decision to prosecute has to be based on legal and evidentiary factors, not political factors, not personal animus, not presidential preference. The judge cited multiple Supreme Court cases establishing these principles. Cases saying that selective prosecution based on constitutionally protected activity like political speech is unconstitutional. Cases saying that vindictive prosecution designed to punish someone for exercising their rights is unconstitutional. And the judge said that's exactly what Trump's revenge prosecutions were, selective and vindictive. The judge then went through the specific targets of Trump's investigations: former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, former FBI Director James Comey, former DOJ official Bruce Orr, several career prosecutors who had worked on Trump investigations. And the judge noted what they all had in common. They had all refused to follow Trump's orders to interfere with investigations or prosecutions for political purposes. They had all testified to Congress about Trump's improper behavior. They had all been publicly critical of Trump. And Trump had publicly attacked all of them, threatened them, demanded they be prosecuted. And now, after Trump returned to power, they were all being investigated. And the judge said the timing and targeting couldn't be more obvious. This wasn't legitimate law enforcement. This was retaliation. Trump was using the criminal justice system as a weapon against his enemies, and that's exactly what the Constitution prohibits. The judge also addressed Trump's lawyers' argument that they had evidence justifying the investigations but couldn't disclose it because it was classified or because the investigations were ongoing. And the judge rejected that completely. The judge said that when the government seeks court approval for investigative steps, it has to show the court why those steps are justified. You can file materials under seal if they're sensitive. You can have ex parte hearings if necessary, but you can't just tell the court to trust you. The court has an independent obligation to ensure that prosecutorial power is being exercised properly, and Trump's lawyers hadn't met their burden. They hadn't shown any actual evidence of crimes. They had made vague allegations. But when pressed for specifics, they had nothing. And the judge said that pattern was telling. Because if there really was evidence of serious crimes, the government would have produced it under seal. The fact that they didn't suggested there was no evidence, that these investigations were pretextual, based on Trump's political desires rather than actual wrongdoing. Now here's where it gets really interesting. And then the judge made a point that's absolutely devastating for Trump's broader legal strategy. The judge noted that Trump's Justice Department was simultaneously arguing contradictory positions in different cases. In these revenge prosecution cases, Trump's lawyers were arguing that the president has broad authority to direct prosecutions, that the attorney general serves at the president's pleasure and has to follow presidential directives. That prosecutorial independence is not absolute. But in other cases, Trump's lawyers were arguing the opposite. When Trump himself was being investigated for crimes, his lawyers claimed prosecutorial independence was paramount, that prosecutors were abusing their authority by investigating Trump for political reasons, that the president should be immune from politically motivated prosecutions. And the judge said you can't have it both ways. Either prosecutorial independence matters or it doesn't. Either prosecutors can be directed by the president or they can't. Trump can't claim immunity from prosecution based on prosecutorial independence while simultaneously directing prosecutions of his enemies. And the judge used a phrase that got quoted everywhere. The judge said the hypocrisy is so thick, you could cut it with a knife. That line went viral because it perfectly captured what everyone was thinking. Trump's legal positions were completely hypocritical, designed solely to benefit Trump, to protect him from accountability while allowing him to attack others, with no principled legal theory behind them, just naked self-interest. The judge also addressed the broader pattern of Trump's behavior. The judge noted that these revenge prosecutions were part of a systematic effort to intimidate anyone who might oppose or criticize Trump. Former government officials were being investigated. Journalists who reported critically on Trump were having their communications subpoenaed. Even private citizens who testified against Trump were being harassed by Trump supporters encouraged by Trump's rhetoric. And the judge said this created a chilling effect on constitutional rights. People were afraid to speak out against Trump, afraid to cooperate with legitimate investigations, afraid to testify truthfully, because they knew Trump would retaliate. And the judge said that's exactly the kind of abuse of power the Constitution is designed to prevent. The First Amendment protects the right to criticize the government. The rule of law requires that people be able to cooperate with investigations without fear of reprisal. And Trump was destroying both of those principles, and courts had an obligation to stop him. And the judge made clear this ruling would have broader implications. The judge said that the legal reasoning applied not just to these specific investigations, but to any politically motivated prosecution, any use of the criminal justice system to punish Trump's enemies. And the judge indicated that other federal judges should follow this reasoning, should scrutinize Trump's prosecutions carefully, should demand actual evidence rather than accepting vague allegations, and should dismiss cases that appear vindictive or selective. This was a roadmap for shutting down Trump's entire revenge prosecution agenda, and Trump's lawyers knew it. They knew this ruling would be cited in every other case, would give judges a framework for blocking Trump's abuses, and there was nothing they could do about it. They tried to argue the judge was overstepping, that prosecutorial discretion was unreviewable, but the judge shut that down. The judge said prosecutorial discretion is not absolute. Courts can review exercises of prosecutorial discretion to ensure they're not unconstitutional. And this was clearly unconstitutional. So the subpoenas were quashed, the investigations were shut down, and Trump's revenge prosecution strategy was in tatters. So what does this December 1st courtroom collapse mean for Trump's broader legal and political situation? First, it showed that Trump's attempt to weaponize the Justice Department was failing. Trump had spent months trying to use criminal investigations to intimidate and punish his enemies, but courts were pushing back. Judges were scrutinizing the investigations, demanding evidence, and shutting them down when they appeared political. And this was significant because Trump's revenge agenda was central to his political strategy. Trump had campaigned on promises to lock them up, to prosecute Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, James Comey, and dozens of other political enemies. And Trump's supporters loved that message. They wanted to see Trump's enemies punished. But now courts were blocking it, and Trump looked weak, ineffective, unable to deliver on his promises, and that eroded his support. If Trump couldn't even successfully prosecute his enemies when he controlled the entire executive branch, what could he do? The December 1st ruling exposed Trump's impotence, his inability to bend the legal system to his will despite all his bluster and threats. Second, the ruling created professional consequences for Trump's lawyers. The judge's threat to refer them for disciplinary proceedings was serious. Bar associations across the country started investigating the lawyers involved in these revenge prosecutions. Some faced ethics complaints, some faced potential disbarment, and this made it even harder for Trump to find competent lawyers willing to represent him, because representing Trump increasingly meant risking your law license. Competent ethical lawyers didn't want that risk, so Trump was stuck with increasingly marginal lawyers, people who were desperate for clients or ideologically committed to Trump regardless of legal ethics. And those lawyers weren't good enough to handle the complex legal battles Trump was facing. So Trump's legal representation kept getting worse, which led to more courtroom defeats, which led to more good lawyers refusing to work for him. It was a vicious cycle accelerating Trump's legal collapse. Third, the December 1st ruling emboldened other targets of Trump's revenge prosecutions. After the ruling, multiple people who were being investigated by Trump's Justice Department came forward publicly. They filed their own motions to quash subpoenas. They gave interviews describing the politically motivated nature of the investigations. They called for congressional oversight of the Justice Department, and they started filing lawsuits against the government for malicious prosecution and abuse of process. Trump's revenge agenda was creating civil liability, potential damages that would have to be paid out of government funds, and congressional Democrats started demanding hearings. They subpoenaed Justice Department officials. They demanded documents about who had ordered these investigations. And while Trump's administration tried to stonewall information started leaking. Career Justice Department officials were disgusted by the political prosecutions, and they were leaking to Congress and to reporters, and those leaks provided more evidence that Trump was personally directing revenge prosecutions, that he was ordering specific people to be investigated and prosecuted, and that created both impeachment exposure and criminal exposure for Trump himself, because using your office to punish political enemies is a crime. It's abuse of power, and Trump was creating evidence of his own criminal conduct every time he ordered these investigations. Fourth, the ruling had political implications heading into 2026. Democrats immediately seized on the December 1st courtroom disaster as evidence of Trump's authoritarianism. They ran ads showing clips of Trump's lawyers stumbling in court, highlighting the judge's statements about unconstitutional prosecutions, framing Trump as a wannabe dictator who was being stopped by heroic federal judges. And those ads were effective. Polling showed voters were disturbed by Trump's revenge prosecution agenda. Majorities said the president shouldn't be allowed to order investigations of political opponents, and Trump's approval ratings dropped further. But here's the kicker. Even many Republicans were uncomfortable with the revenge prosecutions because they understood the precedent it set. If Trump could use the Justice Department to prosecute Democrats, then future Democratic presidents could do the same to Republicans. This wasn't just about Trump. This was about whether the criminal justice system would be politicized permanently. And many Republicans didn't want that. They wanted rule of law, wanted prosecutorial independence, wanted to stop the cycle of political retribution. So they privately welcomed the December 1st ruling even though they couldn't say so publicly. And that created fractures within the Republican Party, between Trump loyalists who wanted blood and institutionalists who wanted to preserve democratic norms. The bottom line is this. On December 1st, 2025, a federal judge publicly destroyed Trump's revenge prosecution strategy. The judge systematically dismantled every legal argument, exposed the investigations as politically motivated and unconstitutional, quashed subpoenas and shut down investigations, and publicly humiliated Trump's lawyers who couldn't defend their positions. The courtroom video went viral, Trump's legal impotence was exposed, and the ruling provided a roadmap for other judges to block Trump's abuses. This was a turning point, a moment when Trump's attempt to weaponize the criminal justice system failed spectacularly and publicly. And it accelerated Trump's downfall, because it showed Trump couldn't deliver on his revenge promises, couldn't bend courts to his will, couldn't escape accountability through aggressive legal tactics. The December 1st courtroom collapse was one more step in Trump's march toward potential defeat, and the pattern was becoming clear. Trump was losing in every forum. Courts were holding him accountable, and the rule of law was surviving despite Trump's efforts to undermine it. This story continues. Stay tuned.